357.25. That's an operating rate. I'll talk briefly on the slide you've got in front of you around the difference in height for a statistical return period of a high level. This is our consent obligation at 357.5. Naturally, you would have that level at 357.66. Our obligations lower the high level. Now we can do that, and it was mentioned earlier, because we have more capacity in the gates than under the natural regime. I'd also reflect on the highest lake level in 1909, 357.72. I guess amongst the general interest in high levels, we shouldn't forget about the drought scenario, where in 2008 we were as low as 355.99, just above our minimum control level. And ironically, in that same year, due to nature, we ended up in a flood up there at 2008 at 357.21. Couldn't stop the swing. It's inflow driven, and it can go up more than 200 millimetres a day. We can't stop it. You can have 3,000 cubics coming in, we can discharge 300. The lake will go where it wants to go. We had the same issue in 10, where it was 91, 355, just above UPM's minimum control median, and that was in May, and it whipped up to 357.32. It will move, and it will move irrespective of my area. The next three slides give an indication of the frequency distribution of lake level, and you've already seen one of these slides earlier today. So we're showing in the first one the decade of 80 to 90, 1980 to 1990, where overall there was a 63 millimetre mean higher under the actual lake than the natural. The frequency distribution from 1990 to 2000 again has a profile where the mean and the actual were, in this case, 66 millimetres different. You will notice that the natural, synthesised natural in blue, would have been slightly higher. Sorry, the base axis is lake level and frequency distribution going up vertically. Since 2000 to 2010, there's been an 11 millimetre differential, and if you do look along the base to the higher end, you'll see in blue that under a natural scenario you would have had more higher lake levels, and particularly above, when I say high, particularly above the maximum operating level. One of the other factors to be very mindful of is wind and wave that comes out of it. The slide we're showing there looks at over a range of time from 79 to 06 for a given lake level, and this is based on actual data where the wind will take it, and you'll see that you can almost draw a rectangle through that irrespective of lake level, you can get up around 900 millimetres plus of wind. Wind-driven vertical wave. So this is 900 millimetres in height, and depending on contour and energy, it's going to wash up. And in fact, on this data plot from Opus, you've actually got 1.6 metres of wave run-up, and that's at a relatively low lake level. It's less than half. It's around about 356.4. And this is where the damage will occur. And again, I reiterate, irrespective of lake level, wind is going to be a significant influence on your fragile shoreline. Yes, just reflecting on 2010, and again the reality of we were in drought, and then the floods took us up high. With that slide, here's I think quite a broad quote from Becker. Lake level analysis has shown that the control of lake level results in periods when the lake is held higher other periods when the lake level is drawn down below what it would have been naturally, resulting in similar lake level regimes, natural versus managed, if compared on a yearly basis. And that, again, councillors, I reflect, comes again from science that was credibly put together and commissioned. So thank you very much, councillors. If I could hand over back to Gavin.
Thanks, Leroy. So I guess you can see the closing slide is trying to look forward as to how we start to get some traction and runs on the board from here. So I suppose just a few closing comments. Firstly, appreciate the time again that you've given us. And I guess I would also note that we share some of the frustration around not being able to deliver on the foreshore erosion strategy and the process. But we're obviously very pleased to see the current initiatives laid out in the Capital Works Plan. Very supportive of that, particularly at Kuratou and Hātepe, that are programmed for work to begin this summer. From an MRP perspective, we're pretty conscious of our environmental footprint. It's one we take very seriously, and we do want to continue to participate in project watershed initiatives to deliver on our contribution to mitigate any of the effects that we might be having. So again, just reinforcing, we want to be part of the solutions here, and I guess just Johnny threw me the baton around making a significant contribution, and I guess that's a point that we've always made, that we are prepared to stand up and support the Capital Works program. But I would note that I guess what I would say is that we don't want to be the only ones at the table sitting there supporting it either. And I guess this is about our support being relative to our contribution to erosion. And I think that's only fair. From a consenting perspective, our environmental impacts were canvassed extensively during the consenting process. And I would add that our consents were granted in 2006. So within the we're only 7 years into a 35-year consent. So we would argue that there are no major matters that have occurred since then that the commissioners were not aware of or that had not considered. So we don't see any reason for a review of our consents. We don't believe it's justified. We also would add that it's not actually relevant to a resolution of the foreshore issues. And what I mean by that is that as you've heard, it's about wind and wave action as much as anything also. We will obviously take whatever measures we can to protect our rights in that process also, which have been determined through an extensive public process that considered the science in depth. But as I've said, we remain willing, alongside other key agencies and community groups, to support Taupo District Council as it leads that foreshore works program. Absolutely want to make that very, very clear. Just repeating that, as you've heard, erosion is a factor of wind and wave run-up and the ability of the shoreline to withstand that energy. And that comes down to geology, vegetation effects at the time. But I guess another point I'd make is that no amount of monitoring or debate over the science will ever precisely prove the proportional contribution the various parties make to erosion. And I guess hence that's why Project Watershed is set up. That's why we want to be part of participating in Project Watershed. And let's move on to implementing the Capital Works Plan. So we've always been committed to doing that work. And I guess if the maximum control level on Taupo was to be reviewed downwards, erosion would still happen. And the communities wouldn't receive the outcomes that they'd be expecting if those capital works were delayed in any way. So, what surprises us a little bit is that there's a few people that believe that the science of lake level and erosion is an absolute one. Unfortunately, it's not. And we're concerned that given our long-term approach to operations, communities believing this absolute theory will be disappointed if they think a consent change is a panacea. What we would argue is that a consent change is not. Erosion will still occur. It's the capital works that provide the actual outcome that people are looking for. Changing the consent is at best speculative, and we think the communities deserve a greater certainty with energy going into real solutions. So, truly natural levels are not possible with maxima and minima on the lake. If they did occur, the consequences would be serious for lakeside communities. And I guess this is that point, that if you asked for natural and got natural, then the lake will go up faster and it will stay up longer. It'll go down further, and I guess the point is that that won't solve the problem. So taking that logic to its ultimate conclusion, if you get a natural lake level outcome, there will be no requirement to contribute to erosion works at all, at least that's what we'd argue, and so I expect the communities would be disappointed with that sort of outcome. So I guess for us, in summary, our preference is to work together with Council to just get on and implement the capital works plan. We would rather do that than lock horns, spend another 5 years arguing over who's to blame, and just spending the money, more money on consultants and lawyers. So I guess and coming back to perhaps Mayor Rick, your question of Johnny around what you expected of the Friends in their presentation, I guess what we're asking for is that we focus on moving forward, that we get around the table and we look at how we implement that capital works plan as soon as we can. Thanks for your time.
Kevin and Leroy, thank you very much for your presentation.